Hey everybody, welcome to Florida for the 12th installment here of Question and Answers. And it's been beautiful down here. So I do feel for all you up there in the north who are suffering with the cold, but you know, redemption will come. At some point in time, the humidity will come down here and it will overwhelm us, and we'll be wishing we were in your part of the country. Okay, the first question here comes from both Jerry A. and Kevin S. They have a very similar question. What was your most exciting moment on the trail, and which was your most scariest? I'll start with the scariest first. I think coming out of Damascus that first night, there was that moment on the trail, if you remember, where I talk about in my Trail Talk video as well as the videos at the time, where I had the firm impression that I should just stop where I was and just make camp. So I stealth camped a little ways off the trail, and that night, it was the first night I actually built a fire for myself. It had been raining all day, and I managed to get a little fire going. I felt pretty good about myself and my skills there. You know, had dinner, got in the tent. Somewhere in the middle of the night, it started raining and it started lightning, and it was so close that the lightning and the thunder were simultaneous. And the thunder wasn't like your normal thunder. It was like dynamite explosions going off. It was that close and that scary. And I was okay until I had a memory of my trekking poles that were Lucky titanium standing up against a tree about 3 feet away from the tent. And I really started worrying that I was going to, if the lightning hit that tree and it took me out, even if it didn't kill me, where I wasn't visible from the trail, and who knows how long it'd be before I was found. So I think that was probably a scary moment. Probably the other moment that was kind of scary also was you see it in my video in New York, but basically a very bad day. I had my ankle injury had gotten worse. I lost my articulation. I didn't know what was going on. The rocks were wet, they were slippery, and I really felt that I'd fallen like 4 times that day, and I really felt that my life was in danger if I didn't stop my hike at that point in time. And you know, that wasn't necessarily one of those heart-pounding scaries, but it was I really felt that fear inside of bodily harm if I didn't stop doing what I was doing. Most exciting time, believe it or not, was probably Three Ridges in Virginia. For me, that mountain has some significance. I had solo hiked that mountain before, and I had also hiked it in July of 1987 with all 3 of my children. The only time all 3 of them have been backpacking with me. And so for me, that day was a very significant day. I felt a real closeness with my kids, and it also happened to be Father's Day when I did that. And to be able to sit up there, and the blessings of having Verizon and a good LTE signal, I was able to FaceTime with my kids and my grandkids on Father's Day, and that was very significant and very special to me on the trail. So that's, up to this point, I would say those are the 2 moments. Now Stephen Ross, he asks, he says, I battle with my clothing options and generally carry too much. I would say, Stephen, welcome to the club. That's one of my fears is hypothermia. We tend to pack our fears. So I'm not sure if I'm really the right person to talk about this, because I also probably pack way too much, and it's really hard right now when you're looking out at the temperature swings, and we've had some really brutal colds come through, and there's actually people out on the trail right now, you know, hiking in some of this stuff. And I think what you need to do, which I would do, is first of all, you know, you'll test your gear down to the limit, if you can, of what you think you're comfortable with. So you know, you say that you're probably going to start hiking late February. So I started the 3rd of March. Let's assume that the weather in 2016 is about the same. You know, you can expect down to you know, I think I had some 22-degree nights that I had to endure with my sleepwear, and there was some of those nights in Florida where I was able to go out and sleep in my gear and make sure I could stay warm. And I think that worked out real well to test that. So I was pretty happy with my sleepwear. And my hiking wear, I didn't really believe my friend that I didn't need this extra layer of fleece, and I took it anyway. The good news is, you know, Neal's Gap and Mountain Crossing is only, you know, 30 miles into the trail. where you can switch out gear, you can send a lot of stuff home if you haven't used it yet, and some of those fear mistakes that you make and probably packing too much can be rectified. But know the limit of where you feel comfortable hiking at with the gear that you have, and that might take a little experimenting before you go out while it's still cold. I knew I was comfortable down to hiking maybe about 25 degrees, excuse me. Sleeping maybe down to about 25 degrees. So when we had some temperatures that were coming in, excuse me, sorry about that. Okay, so when we have some temperatures coming in, I think twice, where it was getting down to into the single digits, like 9 degrees or 11 degrees maybe, but then the wind chill was going to be pushing it down close to zero. I knew my gear was not, I was not prepared to hike in nor sleep in that kind of weather. So I jumped off the trail, and was able to do that twice. Once in the Smoky Mountains, it was a little harder to do, and so you just have to deal with it. The good news is, no matter how cold you are, if you hike, you warm up. So let's say you're sleeping and it's really bitter cold, and you're just like, I'm not staying warm. Get up, break camp, and start hiking. You will warm up, okay? And then you can make some adjustments. The most important thing is that you have protected in your bag where it won't get wet, you know, a sleeping bag, and probably at least something dry to put on. It could be just a t-shirt and a pair of shorts that you're going to use for you know, to do laundry in, or maybe it's just a pair of underwear, and maybe an extra shirt, okay? But have something dry to put in, because you can always get into a shelter, crawl up into the corner of the shelter, break your stuff out, get your dry clothes on, get that sleeping bag wrapped around you to be able to stay warm, to prevent hypothermia. So that's probably the most important thing, is you have something that you can get into that's dry, and something that will keep you warm, and that'll help you survive, okay? So if you underdo it, or you get into a situation that is a little bit harder to deal with. Okay, so G-Bolt on a trail. He said, hey, would you or early riser consider doing a video on how you battled or overcame the monotony and the boredom of the trail, especially your thoughts after hiking several days in cold, snow, rain, or even just long miles in good weather? Is it the same as embracing any suck that occurs on any trail? Probably don't need to do a whole video on it. For me, you know, embracing the suck it's kind of weather oriented, okay? It can also be psychologically oriented, but probably more the weather than anything, okay? The psychology of the trail is something that is almost individualistic for each person on how to deal with. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you I didn't have any Virginia blues. But then after I did one of my last videos, the trail hike videos, I think I really did get into some blues, especially when I got into Daleville. I had a hard time leaving Daleville. I kind of get into some blues there. For me, I kind of went slow, and because I was going slow, I got to actually look around me and enjoy the views, and, you know, enjoy the flowers that were coming out. As spring approached and flowers were beginning to bloom, you know, my dad's a big horticulturalist. He's a, you know, professional landscape architecture guy, and so we had a great time sharing flowers. I'd send him these wildflowers, and he'd text back what they were. You know, we kind of a big family group text, and people were having fun with that, and that kind of helps break things up because we had something to do. I was sharing this with my family, and in a way, doing these videos, doing this video log was a way of sharing it. And once again, it started out just for my family, but in the end, it actually, you know, I've got a couple 2,500 subscribers now, and I mean, that's not a lot if you look at some of the other video vloggers. But for me, it was a way to pay attention to things that you all might be interested in as I was hiking. And that also helped distract me. One of the things, too, that I did was you know, I would look ahead at different sections, and I watched, like many of you, a lot of videos, you know, and people would show things about, you know, you know, for example, in Virginia, you know, the two brothers, one was for the Union and one was for the Confederacy, and they had their graves there kind of facing each other. Those little things I paid attention to, and when I came across them, I was like, oh, I got to go see that. You know, and so I wanted to be able to experience those things. So know what's coming up, break your trail up into those events. You know, for me it was you know, got to get to the border of Virginia. I got to get out. I don't want to quit at Neal's Gap. I want to at least get to the North Carolina border. And when you get there, it's like, well, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so why don't you keep going? We'll get to Franklin. Then you hit the 100-mile mark, and that for me, that was really significant. Then after that, it was into the Smoky Mountains. I really wanted to get into the Smoky Mountains, and then once you get through the Smokies, it's like, wow, I got through the Smokies. Now my friend Jesse's coming in a while, just after Hot Springs, so it was get into Hot Springs, kind of recoup, and you know, and then get out again and go meet my friend Jesse, and you know, hike to Irwin, you know, and then after Irwin, it was that next milestone, and you know, then you get into you get that border crossing into. You get North Carolina behind you. Now you know you're in Tennessee for good, and now you're in your third state, and you kind of have those milestones set up for you. You know, Virginia's the hardest because then it's just Virginia. For me, I had looked ahead and went, okay, you got Grayson Highlands with the ponies, so that was a big event, the 500-mile mark. And after that, I was like, hey, the James River Bridge. I want to be able to cross that long footbridge. That would be cool. And by then, now it's like. Because for a lot of people, well, it's the Shenandoah National Park is next. But for me, it was the Priest, because I took some, back in 1996, I took a bunch of scouts hiking up Crabtree Falls all the way up to the Priest, and we camped out there. And so I was looking forward to getting back to the Priest again after that. Then it's down at Harper's Creek where I camped with my kids, and up on Three Ridges where we camped on the 4th of July up on the rock face there, and then you know, kind of down into Reed's Gap, and then after that it was like, man, it's the Shenandoah National Park next. So for me, it was breaking things up into the next events, and why are you excited to get there? What are you excited to look at? What are you excited to see? Okay, and of course, big miles I was never able to focus on. But at least doing my goals that I set for me, I was able to manage, and that seemed to help. Okay, Keith Skaggs asks, hey, question, is the AT&T network still useless on the AT, as in recent years has it gotten better? Keith, I can't tell you if it's gotten better or not, so I will solicit anybody in the comment section if they know whether or not, especially in the southern part of the trail, it's gotten any better. I can tell you that, of course, Verizon I think works the best, AT&T next, but honestly, like even in Hot Springs, you couldn't get an AT&T signal. Just outside of Shenandoah Park, the AT&T guys did, and those Verizon guys could not. But all we had to do is walk 100 yards down the road, and we could get a signal. You know, I was FaceTiming with my kids in the Shenandoah in the Smoky Mountains, up on ridge lines, and nobody else could do that. You know, T-Mobile and Sprint people were pretty much lamenting that they were just carrying a paperweight with them that whole time. I think the AT&T was okay, maybe at different spots, but most people that had AT&T, I think honestly they got to a point where they just gave up trying, and they just had their phone off. So I think once you got up into Virginia, things got a lot better. I remember a lot of the cell networks are built around the interstate system. So once you get into Virginia, now you start paralleling these long ridge lines, and you got Interstate 81 out there in the valley. And once you do there, a lot of the other cell carriers then come alive. What I don't know is up north. I've heard that AT&T is better way up in the Northeast, but I haven't experienced that yet. So maybe somebody can chime in who's been up there more recently, since my information on that part of the southern part of the trail is getting a little dated now. So, okay, Craig Lahard asks, hey, I've watched countless videos and do not recall seeing much said about gloves. With my March 2nd start, should I be taking a work glove mitten with a flip top to expose the fingers a waterproof glove like a sealskin or some other combination. And I'm gonna go get a drink and I'll be right back. Okay, in a top-notch video world, I'd be editing all that stuff out. But hey, I'm an old guy, and what you get is what you get. So anyway, gloves. So I had a pair of these hiking gloves that didn't have any fingertips in them. And I had a pair of, I think EMS glove liners, just a nylon. And I sent them home. I sent those shells home at Neil's Gap. So I only have my fingerless ones. And they did okay until I got into the Smokies, and there was a couple of mornings where it was 22 degrees, trying to get the tent poles in the bag and get that cold nylon stuff in the sack that I really was suffering. I wish I'd had those back. So when I went back out on the trail in April, up in south of Harper's Ferry, south of actually Front Royal there, I took those glove liners with me, and I had them for the next 2 months. I never ever used them. Maybe my hands are a little more durable than some people. Darwin on the trail, he says he's got very, very poor circulation in his hands, so he needs to have something. So I would say that's the first question to ask is, how do your hands do in the cold? Do they suffer pretty quickly or not? I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 main radiators of the body, okay, heat exchangers. Your feet, your hands, your neck, the top of your head. So head, neck, hands, feet, those are the big ones. And maybe even the torso, because it's like, if you get in a mummy bag and you're just having a hard time staying cold, have you ever just lifted up and exposed your stomach for a while? And that radiating heat will actually fill up the mummy bag and actually help you feel warmer. And have you ever tried doing that? So if you're having cold issues, you put a hat on, you put a buff around your neck, you wear socks to bed, you have gloves. I can't tell you what to do because it really is hike your own hike, but you have some options. Okay. If you're super cold and your hat that you brought with you is not working, do you have an extra pair of underwear? Put that on your head and get an extra layer while you're trying to sleep. Maybe not walk with it. That you might get a good trail name from that one. But if you have a pair of socks, because you don't even have a pair of socks you wear, you've got an extra pair to swap out if you need to. And you have a sleeping pair you always keep dry, and you don't compromise those. Well, take your other pair of hiking socks, and if they're wool, you put them on your hands. They're like a mitten. Okay, and if they get wet, wool will keep your hands warm. Okay, I just don't remember hiking I hiked in the snow that very first day going up on the approach trail. I forgot to put my gloves on, and as long as I was moving, everything was fine. I was perfectly warm. It's the stopping that gets you. Okay. So anyway, there's some options. There are people that have gotten some Cuban fiber mittens from Z-Packs, and it seems like when you watch their pre-hike gear videos and their post-hike gear videos, they send them home pretty early, and maybe depending upon the time of the year, you're way up in the Northeast, Mount Washington, all that wind, maybe that makes more sense to get them then. But I would start out with at least something for your hands and have a plan. If you do a glove liner, then plan on using your socks if you need to, if it gets that bad. You can plan on something that's waterproof, but keep in mind, just like your rain jacket, if you hike in it, you will perspire and it will get wet inside that. Just like it'll get wet inside your rain jacket. Most of the time I didn't wear my rain jacket for the rain. I wore my rain jacket for the wind. Okay, and if I had to and I could get away with it, I might hike and get wet in the rain so that I had that to put on as a vapor barrier when I got into camp to be able to help keep me warm, to keep me from getting hypothermia. So just throwing some things out to think about there. Okay, Fred McClure. Did you have a problem telling yourself you were hiking and not camping to try and lower pack weight? If not, when did it hit you? You know, honestly, I think the big rebel, I mean, I kind of knew I was backpacking, and I knew I needed to go, you know, essential gear only, and I didn't want to drop all those thousands of dollars for the super light stuff, so I thought I had what was going to work, and it was going to be adequate. And I still remember we were kind of late getting to Amicalola Falls State Park, to the station there where you could sign in. We'd had a flat tire, and had to go get that fixed before my son was going to head back to Florida, and so we went and took care of all that, and so we're running late. It was getting close to noon, and we still had this long 8.8 mile brutal hike up. Knowing now how long it takes me to hike 8 miles, I probably never would have started that day. I would have said, hey, we'll find a camp spot here in the campground and start the next day. But, you know, being a military guy, you have a plan, you execute your plan. So, by golly, we were going to hike. So, you know, we walk in there to sign in and register, and I think Clarity was her name. And she had finished a southbound hike only a month or two earlier. And she asked me how much my pack weighed, and, you know, did I want to do a shakedown? And I didn't have time to do that. I wanted to get going on this hike. Do you want to get it weighed? No, I don't know how much it weighs. I weighed it at home. You know, I told her, I think I told her 44 pounds. It was probably more like 46, but I was embarrassed. So I was telling her it was 44 pounds as it was. She looked at me and went, oh, you don't want to do any more than 35 pounds. And of course, I told myself, well, it's wintertime. You know, I got winter gear, and I'm doing a hammock. There's no way I can get by with 35 pounds. And besides, I looked at her, and she was maybe 105 pounds wet. And 35 pounds for her was 1/3 her body weight. 1/3 my body weight was almost 80 pounds, and I was only at 45. I'm doing a lot better than she was, proportionally. Boy, was I wrong. Okay? 35 pounds then became, eventually, I began to realize that my goal was to get to a 35-pound base weight. Excuse me, not base weight, I'll call it gross weight, you know. On your back, 35 pounds or less. And I think, boy, having to deal with the knee issues from the extra weight was kind of a wake-up call. And I think, honestly, it took me halfway through Virginia, maybe to, I think it was to the Three Springs bunk and breakfast, that it finally hit me, that 35 pounds and less, and I was actually backpacking now, not just going on a long camping trip and carrying the stuff on my back. It kind of took that long to kind of everything sink in, and I felt like I was kind of finally dialed in and tuned in. Okay, Bri B. This is from a video where I did a demo on some freezer back cooking. Now, talking about baggy logistics. Do you carry a whole box of them with you and use them until they run out, or do you buy a box when you resupply and then use what you need and toss away the rest? And what do you do with your trash? Okay, first of all, so the freezer back cooking or use the quart Ziploc bags. This is a rule that applies no matter what. The first thing you do, where you get in to do your resupply, wherever you're staying, you go right straight to the hiker box. Okay? Don't pass go. Don't get a shower. Don't do your laundry. Don't get anything to eat. Don't get your hamburger. Go right straight to the hiker box. And chances are there's some baggies in there, so you're gonna grab them and grab some things you need. There might even be some resupply stuff. You can save some money. Okay? But let's say they're not. So I go do my resupply, and it's just me. Then I buy the lowest quantity I can, take what I need, I put the rest in the hiker box to pay back. Okay, because somewhere along the line I'm going to take some, or somebody's gonna, or I've already taken some, and this is a way to pay back, so I'll do that. A lot of times when you go to resupply, you're with other people, and 3 or 4 of you might be like, okay, well, hey, hey, I'll buy the freezer bags, and another person will say, hey, I'll buy some gallon Ziploc bags. A lot of us like to use gallon Ziploc bags to kind of separate our meals out. Okay, if you have all of your food lumped into your food bag, when the hiker hunger kicks in, you'll find yourself eating into your next day's food supply without realizing it, and all of a sudden you'll be out of food, and you still got to hike like a day. Okay, so a lot of us will divide our days out and use these gallon Ziploc bags. Well, that gallon Ziploc bag is also your trash bag for that day, and maybe the next day, and the next day, and probably actually for the whole 4 or 5 days, that 1 gallon Ziploc bag, and then you reuse the other one. So you might have a couple of extra gallon bags with you, and about every 3 resupplies, you might have to pick up a couple or more. Okay. A lot of times, like, you know, your package of tuna fish, okay, it's going to have oil in it or water in it and tuna. It's going to leak all over and stink. Guess what? By the time the hiker hunger kicks in, okay, after you eat the tuna fish out and you get every little morsel you believe you can, you're going to find yourself taking some of your water and pouring it in that tuna fish packet and stirring around all of that and getting all the little yum-yums and goodies, and you're going to drink it, okay? Because you're that hungry and you don't want to miss any little bit of nutrition and calories you can. And so, believe it or not, your garbage bag over time starts to become cleaner as you literally try and consume every little piece of food you can, okay? And then, you know, sometimes when you cross roads, there might be, and you'll see them right on your AWOL guide. It'll tell you whether there's a trash receptacle there. And sometimes you get lucky and you're able to dump off your trash a little early, or they might have some of the little the Forest Service bathrooms there, and they'll have like a garbage can there because they don't want you throwing stuff in the toilet, so you can get rid of some of your stuff there. But sometimes you just carry it with you, and typically by the end of day 4 or 5, especially in the summertime, you know, you do kind of hold your nose as you open it up to throw stuff in it, and you make sure you try to keep the contamination out of it, because you don't, if you get anything on the outside of that garbage bag, you want to put it in another one, because what you don't want to do is get any tuna fish oil or any kind of smells like that on your pack, because now it's just going to be a magnet for rodents and for animals to come and mess with it. So, okay, Tim Martin. I did a gear review on my Neo Air X Lite, and he says, I'm looking for a solution to stop the pad from slipping around on my duplex tent. He says, if on a slope and I end up a lot he ends up a lot at the bottom of his tent, and is wondering if it could be coated with something. Now, since I don't have that problem with mine in my Big Agnes, I never thought about it. My recommendation is to check in perhaps with Thermarest to see if there's a solution. But I thought I'd throw that out to you all and see if there's a possible solution. One of the viewers recommended getting some shelf paper, kind of that stuff that can kind of roll up and it's a little sticky. And you can put kind of a strip of that down, and that will help it. So do any of you out there have any solutions that have the Cuban fiber tent bottoms and the Neo Airs, and how do you keep them from slipping around? Please help Tim out and throw some suggestions in the comments. Okay, Julie, I think it's Torjusen, T-R-J-U-S-E-N, asked me the easiest question of the day, so thank you. And that is, where did you get your blue cozy that holds your Ziploc bags when I do my freezer bag cooking? And Julia, that is from antigravitygear.com. Got a lot of good stuff there. If you buy one of their titanium Evernew pots from them, they actually build a cozy for you and send it to you. I think you can get a lot of David Miller's AWOL guide things there, and I had almost an impression that maybe that's David Miller's website now. I'm not sure. He's still got the atguides.com, but I kind of had the impression there was an association between David Miller and the Anti-Gravity Gear website, or maybe there's just a business association there. So anyway, all right, that takes care of this Q&A. Once again, you have anything for me for next time, throw it in the comments section here below. I also kind of will go through and try and harvest questions from the other videos that I do to see if there's anything that I can do to help answer questions. So hey, until next time, hike on and have a good day, everybody.